Welcome back to another episode of the Draw Control podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by former Penn State women's lacrosse player who is now the assistant coach for the Georgetown women's lacrosse team, Maria Auth. In her lacrosse career, Maria finished her career with 226 points, which was seventh all time in Penn State program history, and additionally finishing sixth in career goals and 11th in career assists. Also, Maria led the Nittany Lions in goals and points as a senior and was named to both the All Big Ten second team and the IWLCA All-Region West/Midwest second team. As a junior in 2019, she garnered All Big Ten first team honors after leading the team in points with 46. Maria, welcome to the Draw Control podcast, and how's everything going?
Thanks. That intro's got me reliving the glory days a little bit.
Yeah, I gotta pump your tires a little bit before we do each interview. But I'm excited to talk to you today, and obviously, how are things going with yourself?
Good, just taking some time to relax a little bit before the season gets going, but nothing too crazy. What about yourself?
Yeah, just enjoying winter break right now before I head back to school in a couple of weeks, but sort of just enjoying I guess the least crazy times right now before the chaos begins in a couple of weeks for myself.
Definitely.
Well, I want to start off this podcast sort of how I do every podcast, just talking about the beginning of your career and sort of working our way down to where you are today. So from the research I did on yourself, it says that you're from Maryland. So talk about growing up there and how did you start playing lacrosse?
Yeah, I think obviously being from Maryland, it is like a classic lacrosse area. I think you start playing pretty young. I would say when I don't even know how old I was, but I played soccer first, and then my soccer coach at the time like pretty much got our whole team to form a lacrosse team. Like at a pretty young age, and then that kind of became my main focus from there. But um being from Maryland, there's so many like opportunities to play. Like every high school team, every rec team, there's just so many opportunities that you can like join a team and learn, which I think is definitely gave me a little bit of advantage, I think, because I had a stick in my hand since I was probably like 5 or 6 years old. So yeah, I mean, all my friends played growing up. It was kind of like the main thing that I did when I was a kid.
And growing up, did you have like a favorite player or team that you like to watch?
Yeah, I had like a weird obsession with Syracuse simply because orange was my favorite color and I was like a little young kid and I just like loved the color orange, so I started watching them. And I think that kind of like sparked my like interest of wanting to like keep playing. Um yeah, it's so funny. I literally just loved the color orange, so I started watching Syracuse. So they became kind of the team I would watch.
Nice, nice. And obviously, before college, you played for your high school at North Hartford High School. So just talk a little about your high school lacrosse experience and sort of what that time of your life was like.
Yeah, high school was really good. My freshman year, our team was awesome. I had a lot of really good like senior leadership, some older girls that I could kind of look at. A lot of them were going to play at the Division 1 level in college, so they kind of like helped mentor me in that way. My coach was awesome. She definitely pushed us really, really hard, but kind of set the standard of what like working hard on the field should look like and helped me prepare for what like a college workout or a college practice would be like. I would say from high school, what I really remember is my club playing days. I played for NEMS in Hartford County, Maryland, and those are like the memories that I look back on a lot when I think about like my lacrosse career. Was definitely really stressful because of recruiting, but I just made like very long-lasting friendships from that. And you spend every weekend together in the summer in like 95-degree heat playing, you get very, very close with your teammates. So I would say like my club days were probably some of my most memorable like high school experiences.
And I guess how did you think your club lacrosse experience helped prepared you for college with Penn State?
Yeah, I think I mean with the club game you're playing tournaments like every weekend in the summer and you're playing like 3 games a day in like hot, hot weather. So one just like getting through that, but also still enjoying it because it is kind of a grind. And then I think just like the teammates, like I said, my club teammates are some of my best friends and like I still want to kind of remain in contact with them. So I think that's a very similar dynamic to college. I think your college teammates are people that you want in your life forever. So it kind of just building that with my club team kind of gave me a little insight into what college would be like.
Yeah, for sure. And also you're going up against other college commits and clubs, so it makes the transition easier because you sort of know kind of what to expect from a competitive standpoint once you get on campus for the first time.
Totally. Yeah, you're definitely playing against some of the best players in the country on a weekly basis.
Now, do you have like a favorite memory from your high school lacrosse days?
Oh man, probably just anytime we played like our rival. We didn't typically win, but it was still fun playing. Yeah, and like it was just really fun to like get on the bus, go to your games. Again, like my high school, my club teammates we were all super close. So I remember that stuff more than like the actual playing, I'd say. Yeah, I think just the memories you make with your teammates, I remember that a lot more than like the specific games or the specific moments on the field.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Any good bus stories?
Oh man, I wish my memory was that good.
I know some teams do like karaoke sometimes and all that fun stuff. So I didn't know if you guys did
Yeah.
that or if that was a thing when you were in high school.
We would definitely bring a speaker and play some loud music on the bus. That was always fun.
So let's talk about your recruiting process now with Penn State. What was that like for yourself? And I guess what made you want to go there versus other schools you might have looked at? Because obviously Penn State's a big school, but I don't think it's known for its lacrosse programs as some other schools in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think it was a whirlwind. I mean, I was going into my sophomore year in high school because this was prior to some of the rules that were put in. And so one, I was super young. And so it was all just like kind of a crazy experience to be looking at schools. But I visited first in my process and just instantly fell in love. I don't even know if it was on my original like list, but the second I visited, I was like, all right, I am coming to this school. Like, I'll do whatever it takes to go here. And I still kind of like, went through the process, visit other schools, but I knew I was gonna go there no matter what. And I was pretty much just gonna do whatever it took to get to that level because I just absolutely fell in love with it.
Yeah, and when you finally got to college and started getting to know the team a little bit, what was like the biggest adjustment you had to make to college lacrosse as a freshman?
I think the biggest adjustment I had to make was the fitness level. Like I said, I had a hard coach in high school and like trained a lot, but I didn't know to the extent that you were supposed to really train for college athletics. And so that was a kind of an eye opener at first. I was like, oh my gosh, am I cut out for this? But once I kind of figured that out, it was totally fine. That was yeah, that was definitely the biggest adjustment was like weightlifting at a high level, running at a high level, practicing hard for a couple hours a day. Like that was probably the biggest adjustment. The speed of the game was definitely different, but I feel like I picked that up quicker. So that wasn't too bad, but definitely just like the level of training that you have to put in to be successful at that level was probably the hardest adjustment I made.
Yeah. And did you get homesick at all during your freshman year? Because I feel like that's something that a lot of freshmen deal with that isn't talked about a lot.
I feel like I didn't. And I kind of felt bad saying that because I love my home, but I just like really enjoyed being at school. I feel like my freshman year was like one of my more fun years. It was just like a really good experience. Yeah, I like really enjoyed being at school. I just loved being like with my friends, going to football games, going to like all the events, like going to I loved going to practice, honestly. I know not everyone can say that, but I truly loved going to practice. So yeah, not too homesick. I can't say it.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense because Penn State's kind of its own little town in the middle of Pennsylvania. But what was the whiteout football game like? I'm always curious about that. That's on like one of my sport bucket list items.
Yeah, if it's not on your bucket list, it needs to be. It is one of a kind. I wish I would go back right now to game if I could. They're so fun. I think that's when I went on my visit, they took me to a game and I instantly was like, all right, I'm sold. Like I have to come here. But the whiteout is like a different world. It's just there's so many people. It's so fun. It's usually like a night game. It's just I can't even describe it. It's something you have to go to.
I miss when they used to do it against either Ohio State or Michigan. Now they feel like they try to make it a different opponent every year, but I feel like it's got to be one of those two teams, in my opinion, because I feel like that makes it more fun.
Yeah, and it has to be a night game. Then at night with like
Oh yeah.
everyone wearing white, it's the coolest thing.
Well, because I think they did it against Minnesota last year, and just I felt like
Mhm.
it wasn't the same. I'm like, you got to find like a big time opponent, like
Yeah.
a blue blood. I feel like that makes it more fun. So
Yeah.
maybe they would have beaten Michigan this year if they did and whiteout, but who
I
knows?
know. Well, my freshman year was the whiteout was when they beat Ohio State with the blocked field goal.
Oh
And it
yeah.
was the coolest thing ever. It was so much fun.
Now, what's it like in playing in the Big Ten, I guess, from a lacrosse standpoint and sort of the competition you guys face each game? Because obviously you guys play teams like Maryland and Northwestern, so that must be really fun to go against those high-end players and teams all the time.
The Big Ten is super fun. Each game is so competitive. You can't really, again, you can't take a game off. Every team you have to really prepare for, which I think is a lot of fun. Knowing that like there's no guaranteed wins. Every game is going to be super hard. A lot of the games are on TV, which as a college kid is really cool experience to, get to say you've played on the Big Ten network or on ESPN. It's just really cool as a 20-year-old kid to be on national TV playing against, Maryland or Northwestern or Hopkins or whoever it is. But I loved playing in that conference. I thought it was so fun. Any high level game is just so fun and competitive. Playing in the Big Ten tournament's really cool, the way they set it up. So I can't say enough great things. I really just had a great time playing overall.
And during your freshman year, your team made it all the way to the NCAA semifinals at Gillette Stadium. I'm curious, looking back on it, what did you take away from that experience, just the tournament run that your team had? Because getting to play at Gillette Stadiums, I've never done it, but it looks a lot like a lot of fun. So,
Yeah, it was so cool. It's one of my favorite memories on the field. The game didn't go the way we wanted to, but the overall experience was really awesome. I think one, just looking back at the tournament run, like it's really hard to win at that level, especially when you get into the NCAA tournament and every game is either win or go home. So I think just like learning how to win, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's not an easy thing to do. And I think each game knowing like how to execute a game plan and how to like show up and play really well despite the nerves and despite the pressure. So I think just overall learning how to win is something that I will take back from that experience. It was also just like you just feel awesome. Like you're at the highest level, you're one of the last four teams playing. You show up to the hotel and there's like, it says your team's name and there's gear laid out for you. It's just like such a good feeling. And it's cool. That was my first time going to Boston because we were playing at Gillette. And then I started my coaching career in Boston. So it was just a really cool kind of full circle moment. Um, but yeah, playing at Gillette was really cool. I've played in a lot of cool stadiums just being in the Big Ten, whether that was like at Ohio State and their football stadium, the Big House at Michigan, and now Gillette. So it's just a lot of cool like places that I've gotten to play that I feel super grateful for. But I mean, that whole week of the Final Four, because not just like the game, it's like kind of a whole experience, was really cool. It's definitely one of the biggest like things I'll remember from playing. Just spending that time like in the city with my teammates, exploring the city a little bit, playing at Gillette. Obviously would have loved to win, but credit to that Maryland team. They were so good that year. I think they went undefeated and won the whole thing, but they were incredible. So obviously the game didn't go how I wanted, but the overall experience was awesome. And it just taught me like how much work and effort goes into winning games at this level.
yeah, for sure. And obviously, I went to a Frozen Four one time a few years ago, and they had like a red carpet for all the teams that once they arrived to the stadium. I'm curious if they do that or if they did that for that year when you were playing.
Yeah, we had like a banquet the night before. It was either the night before or 2 nights before, and you like walked in, there was like hundreds of like little kids screaming, like so excited that all these like teams were there, and they basically like let us into this like banquet hall. And then who was it? The coach of the Bill Belichick, the coach of the Patriots, he gave a speech at the banquet, which was really cool. Um, so that was just a really cool experience. And then at our practice, Chris Hogan, who was a receiver on the Patriots at the time, he's
Oh
a Penn
yeah.
State alum. So yeah, he's a Penn State lacrosse alum. So he came to our practice, which was really cool. But overall, it was just such a fun like few days prepping for that game.
That's awesome. Yeah. Shout out to Bill Belichick. Definitely, in my opinion, the best coach of all time. And I think in any sport you can argue. So
Yeah, that was super cool to have him talk to all the teams before.
now getting back to sort of your career a little bit, how did you balance academics and lacrosse at such a high level?
Yeah, I think probably using resources, like going to study hall. And honestly, I felt like the days that I didn't have practice, I was less productive with school. Like practice and lifting and like everything like that kind of kept me on a schedule. Like being busier with lacrosse, I felt like actually helped me. Like when I had more free time, I didn't take advantage of it, but like being on the lacrosse team and like actually having responsibilities and being busy definitely helped me more than if I hadn't been busy with all that stuff.
And what would you say is like the biggest improvement you've made to your game since your freshman year to your senior year when you look back on it now?
I think looking back, probably my like lacrosse IQ, I'd say. I think that's something that I never worked on in high school. One, because I didn't really feel like I had to at the time. Looking back, I wish I did, but and I also didn't really have access to film as much as you do in college. And so I think just like learning the game from a different perspective and learning the game at a more complex level. I think freshman year it's like, all right, I can dodge, I can shoot, but like I don't really know how to read a defense or how to read what my teammates are doing. And I think developing that was definitely probably like my biggest adjustment throughout my career. And then once I was like a senior or fifth year, um, I felt pretty strong about that. And like, you know, if they're playing a zone or a man or if they're sending an early double, kind of how I could beat that. But freshman year, the game moved at such a fast level. I was like, all right, I can focus on me, myself, and I, and hope that I can help the team a little bit. But the lacrosse IQ stuff was definitely my biggest growing area, I would say.
And how did you work on being a versatile attacker? Because I feel like that's what stood out to me while doing research on yourself was you found ways to score goals, but also assist your teammates. And it seemed like you were very versatile in that sort of regard. So I'm just curious how you worked on that because I feel like a lot of times when you talk to attackers, it's sort of like working on their shot and sort of hand-eye coordination, but not really being, I guess, versatile both from an attacking standpoint, but also trying to be a good, I guess, two-way player on the field as well.
hmm Yeah, I think kind of going off my last answer, definitely the IQ piece. So watching film, watching other teams play, watching at games that are on like anytime, I think that's really helpful. Because similarly what I was saying earlier, like I could work on my dodging, I could work on footwork, I could work on shooting, but if I don't know how to break a defense down when they send a double or they are playing a different style defense. It doesn't really matter how good my footwork is or how good my shooting is. So I think developing that piece was really important. I think that's where you can see if like I'm assisting more in a game. It's probably because they were sending someone to me and I was reading where that was coming from and moving the ball. So I think that's probably the piece that helped me a lot was just developing the lacrosse IQ and kind of understanding how to read a defense instead of just worrying about like if I can dodge past somebody. Because you might be able to dodge past somebody, but if they send somebody to you, it doesn't really matter that you beat the first person. So you got to kind of read the defense from there and adjust. So I think developing that piece was really important to my game.
Now, your senior year got canceled due to the pandemic. So, my question is, how'd you handle that challenge of having your season getting canceled and sort of with the uncertainty of when slash if you guys are ever going to play again. Luckily you did, but at the time it was sort of unknown if that was going to happen.
Yeah, I probably didn't handle that great. It was really hard, I must say. I was really, really upset. We got the news of it when we were in Nashville, for spring break. We were going to be playing Northwestern for a neutral site game. And you could like tell something was off. But no one really, it was all rumors at that point. And then we like got the official news that it got canceled. And I mean, as a senior at the time, it was not a fun experience. I mean, it wasn't fun for anybody, but just I remember like my class, we were like devastated because one, not being able to play together, but two, you're with your best friends. Like that's a couple months out of your experience together that got kind of cut short. We all lived together in a house and like had so many good memories with them. So we definitely weren't ready for that to end. Um, and then the playing, obviously, like I had individual and team goals and that I like really wanted to hit. And obviously when that kind of gets pulled out from under you your senior year, it's pretty tough. So it was a lot of waiting game trying to figure out like what the next step was. Like if we could come back, if we couldn't, what was I gonna do? Yeah, so it was not fun. But it all worked out in the end. So
Yeah. Well, I sort of relate to you a little bit. I was not in college, but I was still in high school when that
Mhm.
happened. And yeah, like I meant, I still remember all that uncertainty. And I always hate when people say like, oh, I missed 2020, sort of because I guess the lockdown sort of vibe. But looking back, I thought that was like probably the worst year ever. So I don't know why people say that sometimes.
Yeah, and it was hard because obviously like there was so much going on in the world. It was almost almost feeling selfish that I was like upset about this about playing
Mhm.
the sport when there was horrible things going on. But it was a tough thing to accept. And I'm just really grateful that I was able to come back because I just didn't want my career to end that way. Like I wanted my career to end on my own terms.
And like you mentioned, luckily you were granted an extra year of eligibility and got to play in the 2021 season. As a grad student, what type of leadership did you want to bring to the team once you knew that you were coming back for that season?
Yeah, I think a couple things with that. I think the first thing that I can think of is like a new perspective, like just kind of showing putting everything kind of into perspective of with my new teammates, the younger teammates that came along, and just showing to them like what it means to wear the jersey, to have Penn State across your chest, like how important that is. Um, so I think just showing them that and kind of explaining that this was taken away from me at one point and I was devastated. So like let's make the most of every day here because last year at that time I would have done anything to go back to even a run test with my teammates. So I think just kind of putting things into perspective for them to understand how meaningful it is to wear a Penn State jersey and to play for this university. I thought that was kind of my main goal was to just show how much I cared about the program and to try to kind of instill that in some of the younger players that were new to the team. I also think leadership wise, I really tried to mentor the younger kids. I call them kids, they're literally adults, but some of my younger teammates, I was injured my fifth year, so I missed a lot of practice in the fall. Um, and then so I was kind of watching a lot and almost learning the game from a coaching angle, just because I was not able to play a lot in the fall. And so kind of using that angle to help mentor some of the younger people on the team and help them kind of learn, the IQ piece of the game, and just kind of instill confidence in them. Just because when you're not playing, you definitely see it from a different perspective, a different angle.
Now you played your final game as a Nittany Lion against John Hopkins in the Big Ten quarterfinal. Looking back on it, what do you remember from your final game of your playing career, and what will you take away from your Penn State lacrosse experience overall? Now looking back on it, being a coach, I guess, now too.
Yeah, I mean, that game was very heartbreaking because it was prior to the NCAA tournament, but we it was kind of like we had to win to have a chance at making it. And so when we lost, I pretty much knew my career was over and that it was really hard, especially because we were hosting the tournament. So then the couple days following, I teams were playing on our field and I wasn't playing. Um, so that game was really tough. I mean, credit Hopkins, they played an awesome game, but that was not a fun way to end. But I remember after the game just like standing on the 50-yard line and just soaking it in because even though we lost, like I again I'm just so grateful that I got to play for my coach, got to play for that school. And so I just remember like looking at the field for like a minute just with my own thoughts, like like being quiet and just looking around and um just kind of taking it all in because I knew it was pretty much over. I mean, there was a small chance we'd make the tournament, but it was, I knew it was pretty much over. So I was just kind of trying to soak in those last moments wearing that jersey. I would say overall, like what I would take away from my career, again, it's less so like the on-field moments. And being a coach, I get to, still have those on-field moments just from a different side. But I think just I might sound cliche, but my teammates, I mean, some of my teammates are my absolute best friends. They're going to be in my life for the rest of my life. And it's you go through a lot together when you're playing at that level, whether that's like run tests or workouts or tough losses, and just like the moments that you spend, we all live together. So just my teammates are definitely what I'll take away from it. I think it's a bond that can't be replaced. It's just like hard to describe what they mean to me and what my time in school with them meant.
So you're now a coach today. So my first question is, at what point during your playing career did you realize you wanted to be a coach?
Yeah, I think I always knew, but I was a little bit in denial because I was majoring in like a science degree and I was like, oh, I should probably like use this degree. But I think I always knew I wanted to coach. I've always just like loved lacrosse. Like a lot, like almost too much sometimes. Like I would watch every game that was on TV. I would like read all about it, any article that came out. So I think I knew that where my heart was kind of leading me to, but I was a little bit in denial about it at first. But yeah, I think once I realized it, I was like, all right, this is what I'm meant to do. And then I remember telling my parents, I was like, oh, I'm gonna like apply for coaching jobs. And they were like, their response was basically like, "Oh, finally, we were just waiting for you to figure it out." Like they knew I was gonna coach before I did, which is kind of funny. My dad was like, "Yeah, I've just been waiting for you to tell me this because I knew that's what you were gonna end up doing."
What's the transition like from being a player to being a coach? Obviously, the relationship with the team is a lot different, I would
Mhm.
imagine. So that's probably takes some time to adjust to because you're more, you have to have a different dynamic and they're sort of like, I'm just curious how that sort of works out.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a big transition. I would say there's a lot that goes on in coaching that as a player, you just have no idea. Like I think as a player, it's easy to assume your coach is just kind of like go to practice and then go home. But there's a lot of work that goes into it that you don't even know what to ask, what that work would be until you're in it and like because every day there's a new challenge. Um, but so I think that's kind of the biggest adjustment. Just it's a lot more than just going to practice. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes um, that makes me very grateful for my coaches because I know that they put a lot of work into our program. Um, and then just, yeah, you are on a different kind of side of things. So you have to handle yourself professionally. You have to put a lot of hours in, watch a lot of film. I watched film as a player, but I watch a lot of film as a coach now. And just continuing to learn the game at a really high level. Again, I've been coaching in my third year coaching, but every day, like we'll watch film and learn something different that I didn't know before. So I think that's probably one of the bigger adjustments. You think you know lacrosse until you become a coach and you realize that there's so much that goes into it other than just kind of what you knew how to do on the field.
And you were recently with Boston University, so I just want to ask you about your time there and sort of what you took away from being with that team, because obviously you guys went from 5 wins, or I think it was 2 wins in your first year there, to 9 wins this season, beating a ranked Navy team as well. So it must have been satisfying for yourself to see some of the hard work pay off this past year for you.
Yeah, it was an awesome year. I'm so grateful to that program. I think they really helped, start my career and taught me so much. I had an awesome mentor there, who just like taught me so much about the game and about coaching and about life. And so it was really such a great place for me to start my career. I had the team was awesome. They were, really like willing to learn, willing to work really hard. And we made like tremendous growth in the past year. But yeah, I can't say enough great things. I had a really good experience there. It was an awesome city to live in. And I just like the people were incredible. They really started my career in such a great spot. And just taught me so much about everything. Extremely grateful to that program and everyone involved in it.
I do want to ask, is it weird for yourself going to a different city that you're not used to and sort of trying to, I guess, meet different people that way? It's probably a lot harder than in college because you have your sort of team and other people your age there than compared to adult being somewhere new and sort of trying to meet people that way. I'm curious how you sort of handle that.
Yeah, I still don't figure that out. No one really tells you how to make friends as an adult in a new city. Because at school you just have automatic friends with your teammates. And so no one really teaches you that out of post grad. But the first year was an adjustment to learning a new city. I also went to school in the middle of nowhere, so I'd never lived in a city before. Um, but I made friends quickly with roommates and coworkers. All the coaches I worked with were awesome, so they were kind of my built-in friends. But it definitely was an adjustment moving to a new city at first, but I really loved my time there.
And you're now with Georgetown, so talk about how that process went down with you going there and how excited you to be helping lead the Hoyas this upcoming season and sort of kind of a homecoming for yourself being close to Maryland.
Yeah, it's been a really awesome experience. I'm again really grateful to them for welcoming me in. Really grateful to everyone involved in the program. And it is really nice to be close to home. I think my parents are reliving a little bit of their glory days a little bit. They loved going to my games as a player, and now I think they kind of missed that aspect of like going to lacrosse games. So my dad's been to all of our fall ball games. Like he is so excited to be able to go to games again. And it's really nice to have them so close to home. Which has been a really good adjustment. But I'm super pumped for this year and just to be with that program. I think all the girls, all the coaches are just so awesome. So I'm really grateful for them for bringing me along.
So let's transition now to a segment I like to call 5 questions that have nothing to do with sports. And the goal of the segment is to hopefully get to know you a little bit more off the field and have some fun. So my first question to you is, if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play yourself?
Okay. I would pick Blake Lively only because like she looks nothing like me. It would be a horrible match probably for me in a movie. However, she's best friends with Taylor Swift, and I'm thinking if she's playing me in a movie, then there'd be a movie premiere and I get to hang out with Taylor Swift. So that's my
Or
little poll about that
Mhm.
because I don't think she would be who I'd pick because I don't even know, but she's best friends with Taylor Swift, so of course I'd pick her.
Yeah, and maybe Taylor Swift could play one of your friends in the movie. That would be kind of cool too.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I could see that. That would be a good movie. I would go to it.
I usually pick Ryan Reynolds because I think he's a funny guy. So maybe if there was a movie made about your life, he would play me in the podcast scene. I feel like
Great.
that would be a lot of fun. But
Perfect.
I would say Matt McConaughey just because I think he's a really cool guy and we don't look anything alike. I just want someone cool to play me and someone I can brag to my friends about, and I feel like he's perfect for that. So
Great.
now, which player on the Penn State women's lacrosse team had the best off the field style?
Hmm. Like clothing?
Yeah, yeah.
I would say my teammate Yasmin Hamoud. She was in my class. I lived with her my senior year in a house. She's great style. I would definitely love her closet if I could have it.
I would go with you, Maria, just because you're wearing the Red Sox hat, and that's my favorite baseball
Is it
team. So,
really?
yes, yes. So,
I bought this hat because I thought it looked cool. And I went to a game last year and I was like, I don't have any Red Sox gear. Because I'm from Maryland, so I'm actually an Orioles fan, but I do like this hat. It's a
that's
good
cool.
hat.
Well, it looks good on you. So, I just want to say
Thanks.
that. And yeah. Now, next one is what's the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
I'd say I watched the college football playoff, and it was really cool and seeing two teams that haven't made the championship game make it. So I thought that was pretty interesting to see with Washington and Michigan winning. So I'm excited to watch the championship game next week.
Yeah, it should be interesting, especially since Washington has a really good offense and
Mhm.
Michigan has a really good defense. I'm sort of curious what gives and what doesn't. That's always fun,
Yeah.
sort of tactical stuff to watch. I would say that for myself. I guess maybe watch seeing part of the Winter Classic. That was pretty cool in Seattle. Just because it was I've never been there before, but it looked really cool. So I'll
Mhm.
probably go with that one for myself. I always want like seeing how it goes down every year for that.
Yeah, it'll be cool.
Now, what is your guilty pleasure TV show?
I would say it's either Game of Thrones or Grey's Anatomy. Totally different vibes. Game of Thrones, like I have to put on when I'm in the mood to really focus. But Grey's Anatomy I put on as like background noise every day. Like
Yeah.
doing other things, having on the TV. So one of those shows probably.
Yeah, honestly have never seen a single episode of any of them.
Oh my goodness.
Um,
You
which is
should.
which might be I heard Game of Thrones is the bat last season was disappointing, so you can obviously speak on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to end a show that's good the right way. Like it's such a good show. There's so much that happens. Like I feel like any way you end that, people aren't going to be happy because how do you like finish a show that good? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my opinion on it.
I'd say my guilt, I guess I don't really have a guilty pleasure, but probably like Parks and Recreation. That's always a fun show to put on the background, or like sort of like Law and Order or one of those
Mm.
like crime channels shows. I feel like those are always playing in the background if it's not a sports game for myself. So I'll go with those two. Now that last on the cross question is what is one place you would love to travel to soon?
Um, Anywhere that has cage diving with great whites. I like love sharks and I've swam with them t- twice, three times now, but without a cage, like smaller sharks. So I'd want to go somewhere I could do that. So wherever that is, I want to go there.
No, thank you for me. I do not want to get eaten, so I will not be doing that. I would say for me, probably like West Coast somewhere. I feel like that would be
Mm.
fun.
Look, I think the shark dive would be more fun, but that's fine.
Well, I feel like walking around and seeing cool scenery and not having to worry about being eaten by a shark seems a little bit more fun for myself,
To each
but
their own. To each their own.
I guess so. I guess so. So, all right, getting back to some lacrosse questions now. First one is what should be done to help grow women's lacrosse from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you can get the game on TV, I think it's such a good experience for exposure. And I also think it's really fun as a player to, to be on TV. So I think that would help. I look at a lot of sports that have grown a lot in the last few years, whether that's like softball or women's volleyball or women's basketball. I think they've done such a good job of really marketing their sport and growing its popularity. Like I look at the volleyball game that was in Nebraska's football stadium that broke records this year, or Iowa women's basketball selling out their games. So I think it's really cool to see women's sports really on the rise. And as someone who works in women's sports, I think it's really inspiring. So I think just anytime you can get the game on TV and really get exposure for it, I think that would help. But I think now is an awesome time. Clearly, women's sports are doing so well right now. So I think it's really exciting to be in women's lacrosse right now because I think we're doing a really good job with that.
Yeah, I saw somewhere where it was like they made a new professional women's hockey league, and
Mm,
like all these games, it was like the first week it like officially happened, I guess, and all these games were like selling out, and like so many people are watching on TV, and everyone's like, I just feel like if you put in effort something, it's gonna grow because I think people just like sports in general, no matter who's playing. I think people see the small minority of haters, I guess, online and sort of assume that's what people think, but I think the majority of people want to watch and invest into it. I think if you just put in some effort, people will watch. So I'm kind of with you on that.
mm. Yeah, it's an exciting time to be in women's sports.
Now, what sort of advice would you give to younger players who want to be a college lacrosse player? I'm just curious about that. As a coach, you probably have to do some recruiting here and there. So what do you sort of look for?
Yeah, I would think, if I was like giving advice to anyone, like thinking about myself when I was younger, again, might sound cliche, but I think just really enjoying playing. I think it's really easy to get, you know, so wrapped up in the recruiting process or trying to make different teams or showcases that you kind of forget, your love for the sport. And that's something that's going to take you far. Because I think, again, playing in college is a lot. You're practicing every day, you're watching film every day. Like it's a commitment. So you truly have to love it. To really stay motivated and to kind of have, a reason or a why. So I think just really like enjoying the game and enjoying playing. Like you have to love it because it is a lot of work and it's a commitment. And like I said, I loved going to practice. I don't know if that's an unpopular opinion or not. Because I don't know, practice is hard, but I think I loved showing up every day and like working really hard with my teammates. And again, even just wearing my Penn State penny at practice, like it just means something. It's super meaningful to me. And so I think just like really finding what you enjoy about the sport, I think that's going to take you super far. Because there's going to be days where you don't want to wake up for practice. There's going to be days where you don't want to have to run a run test, but if you truly love it, then you'll do it. You'll do it to the best of your ability.
Yeah, I remember a Colorado coach one time saying like practice was his favorite part of the day because it's the
Mhm.
one day, one part of the day where he got to do something he loved, which was
Mhm.
football. And I feel like a lot of people like sometimes don't look at it that way. It's like it's
Mhm.
their one day it's scheduled like you can play the sport that you love. So I feel like most people would like a practice because it's something that
Mhm.
makes them better, even though game days are exciting as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely practice isn't easy, but again, if you have the right mindset, then it can be the best part of your day, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, before we end this interview, Maria, do you have any shout outs you want to give to any of your family members, friends, former teammates, I guess current coaching teammates that you might have? And who should we have on the podcast next?
I think a good podcast guest for you would be my former teammate and current Delaware assistant, Steph Lasso. She's hilarious and was my one of my biggest mentors as a player. So I'm shouting her out, and I think she'd be a really fun guest on the
Awesome.
podcast.
Well, Maria, I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your day and coming on. I really appreciate it. I think you're a great player and an even better person. I just want to let you know that. And best of luck with your new team this upcoming season. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch that.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is fun.